parties. Is anybody here from Springfield? Okay. We got anybody here from Chicago? Good. Would the media please report to the rest of the country and state that by these folks being here today to stand up to protest government for overspending, overtaxation, and overregulation proves that not everyone from Springfield is corrupt and not everyone from Chicago is nuts. It was 2 years ago today on these very grounds that a group of local citizens gathered to voice their concern over the massive government spending and taxation. There was a crowd of about 1,200 of us at the peak of the rally that the local paper reported as 400. The 425? Well, they gave us a break. The mainstream media and the left started from day one demonizing the Tea Party. The paper published an editorial about our first Tea Party with headlines that read, "Protest, but don't ignore the facts." Telling us if Barack Obama was practicing socialism, it was a form not recognizable in any textbook. Well, we in the Tea Party don't need a textbook, we just look in our pocketbook. They told us that when the economy slows and credit becomes tight, that to move the economy forward, it was the government's job to spend to fill the void, just like the Depression. Well, here are a few facts for you from the media here today. Let's see what has transpired since our first Tea Party 2 years ago. The nearly $1 trillion stimulus failed. Instead of 3.5 million jobs we were told would be created by the end of 2010, 2.3 million jobs were lost. The deficit is running at $1.6 trillion this year. The national debt will have increased by 40% by October. Welfare is at record highs. More people are on food stamps than at any time in our history. The number of foreclosures are at record highs. The housing market remains in a recession. New home construction is in a depression. Today there are more homes in foreclosure or pre-foreclosure across this country than are for sale. Nearly 5 million. Unemployment, which we were promised would not go above 8% if the stimulus was passed, set a record dating back to World War II, with 20 consecutive months of unemployment over 9%. Obamacare passed over our protests while we were told it would save money. Now we're told that it's going to cost a little bit more. 1,050 businesses and unions have been granted waivers by HHS because they can't afford Obamacare. The President circumvents the Congress and orders EPA to impose CO2 caps through rule that the government's very own Energy Information Administration's economic forecast model says will cause gas to increase 77% above the baseline, cost 3 million more jobs, and cost every household $4,000 a year. The President has declared war on the coal mining industry and America's most affordable electricity, coal-fired power plants, with rules forecast to cost 250,000 jobs in the Midwest. Then the President tells us we're headed in the right direction. The left and the Democratic caucus then has the gall to call the Tea Party extremists. And the sad part is the media reports it as a fact. Let me ask you, ladies and gentlemen, we get any grandparents here? We got any home builders here? Hey, we got a couple back there. We got any small business owners? Okay. Tradesmen like electricians, carpenters, HVAC contractors, or plumbers. We got any of you guys here? Yeah, we got some here. Hey, are there any farmers here? Yeah, you ain't on the field today. You ain't fooling me. There you are. Hey, we got any coal miners here today? Yes, we do. We got any truck drivers? Yes, we do. How about retail workers, waiters and waitresses? We got any of you here? There we go. All right, we got any state workers or retirees here? Yeah, we got quite a few of you here. Are there any taxpayers here? Oh, there's taxpayers here. Are there any veterans here? Well, I would appreciate it very much if the media would take this down. You are just introduced to the real Tea Party, not the one you report, which is fabricated from your buddies on the left. We are the people who pay the bills, who build and maintain this country. We make this country work and we serve to defend her. We believe in a limited government whose role is to provide for the national defense and to protect our citizens' individual freedoms and property rights. Those in power today ignore, limit, and eliminate our freedoms by increasing our taxes and implementing suffocating regulations. And the left calls us the extremists. No, the extremists span the halls of the White House, the Congress, and the building we are in. Fact number one, just a few facts from the media. The Tea Party was right 2 years ago, and the Tea Party is right today. We are mainstream America. Next, this administration has spent more money than any other government in the history of the world. Do you remember the president when he said he would cut the deficit by half by the end of his first term? He quadrupled the annual deficit from 2007. I think his math teacher needs fired. Now the president says he will lower the deficit by $4 trillion. What evidence is there that we can trust him? After all, this is the president who will have added $4.4 trillion to our debt in his first 3 years on the job. Y'all remember when the president said he was going to focus on jobs like a laser? And that he wasn't going to rest until Americans were back at work? Well, Mr. President from the Tea Party, you need to take your laser to the shop because it's broken. And we ask humbly that you drop out of the Vacation of the Month Club and the Country Club. And please don't ask the American people to trust you to cut $4 trillion from the deficit when you are the proven biggest spender in the history of the world. That's like sending an arsonist to put out the fire. Fact number two, this administration has failed to deliver on any of its economic promises. The economy has not recovered, and we are not headed in the right direction. Fact number three, the Tea Party made their presence known in November of 2010 When the Tea Party showed up at the polls in 2010, we had the biggest turnover in state houses since 1928 and in Congress since 1936. That's fact number 3. Fact number 4 is, we ain't done yet. Because we can't wait until November 2012. That's 4 facts for you there in the media. I could have gone on, but I want to make it easy for you. Somebody trying to get my attention. Ladies and gentlemen, I had to add this because on Wednesday, President Obama called for bigger government, more spending, and more taxes. How do I know this? Because the president said he wanted to cut spending, reduce the size of government, and to raise taxes. Now, I watched his lips. Just like he promised to reduce the deficit before and to create jobs. The only thing we know for certain that he will do is raise taxes. Then the president, who called for more civility and political discourse, launched a partisan political attack upon his opponents with half-truths, insinuation, and false allegations. He is attempting to divide Americans by encouraging class warfare, pitting one group of Americans against the other. He discriminates openly against private citizens based upon their financial status. This is the left's strategy for 2012 to demonize, mischaracterize, and to demagogue. We must not allow the left and the media to define the conservative message. It will be up to us to educate our friends and our neighbors to the truth and get them out to vote in 2012. The stakes are too high for America. The choice will be clear in November of 12. The voters will choose if the American people will exist to serve the government or if the American government exists to serve the people. Ladies and gentlemen, our president is famous for slogans like hope and change and yes, we can. Well, he has a new slogan, winning the future, or as we in the Tea Party call it, WTF. I beg to differ with the president. You, yes you who are here today can be proud to tell your children and grandchildren that you stood on the right side of history with the Tea Party. And that is the reason why they in America have a future. A bloated, rogue, authoritarian federal government that's sometimes lawless, that's placing heavy burdens upon taxpaying families and businesses in Illinois, but along comes the state to pile on. I want to introduce Denise Catoni, our Illinois coordinator. Denise has been with the Tea Party since the beginning and is here to introduce a few special guests that we have visiting us here. Or is Sue going to do? Who's going to do it?
We have a slight change just in the agenda. We have some state senators and state representatives that were willing to walk off the floor for you guys.
ladies and gentlemen, I'd just like to say a word or two, but very briefly. I would ask you to consider two things. First of all, your message. Your message is you're just begun. Number two, I would ask you to consider making your number one mission empowering yourself as free citizens of this country, and that means Senate Bill 600's successor bill, Senate Bill 35. Senate Bill 35 was voted yes by each one of these people. Dave Severson, had, even though being a part of the State Central Committee, has had the courage from within the structure to vote yes on all of your right to vote. Senator Dan Duffy voted yes. Senator Christine Johnson voted yes. Senator Darren LaHood, yes. Each person in the Senate who's standing here today voted to empower you. Now the battle goes over to the House. I ask you to do one thing, please, and that is to have each one of your state representatives be a co-sponsor. It is not enough for them to say, oh yeah, I'll vote for it when it comes, if it comes. Have them commit to your power to vote. Because I ask you, what's the sense of doing all the work you're doing? To give your time, to give your money, to give your heart to the cause of democracy in America. If when you get to the voting booth, you cannot vote for one of the party's leadership in the state of Illinois, it makes no sense. So I ask you to consider, please get your state representative. Identify, you know who serves you in the House. Please require that person to be a co-sponsor of your right to vote. Thank you very much.
Mike Conley, actually, State Rep Mike Conley is sponsoring repeal the tax hike bill in the House. We thank him very much for doing that. Also, Senator Matt Murphy is sponsoring repeal the tax hike bill in the Senate, so we thank him for that. And one thing I would like to point out, as long as these folks actually walked off the floor and are standing up for us, is that everybody in this room needs to remember that when Quinn had the bill that was passed in the middle of the night in a lame duck session, it doesn't matter if you are a Democrat or a Republican. This was done before the new House was actually sworn in. Thank you, Dan. Was sworn in that day. It was done in the dark of night, and Quinn, obviously, I'm not implying that there were any deals cut in the middle of the night, but the fact that one person had to be carried out by ambulance might tell you something. But I will say that every Republican in the House and in the Senate, just so everybody here knows, did vote no to the tax hike bill. Also thank, as long as I'm up here, and then I'm going to turn this over to Dan Duffy. There were also 10 Democrats who were brave enough at that time, in that environment, to vote no. And we thank them. And there has been a question as to, are these Democrats Tea Party people? Are they? That has nothing to do with it. These 10 Democrats, irregardless of party, said no, we don't want you to raise our taxes. And I can assure you that at least 3 of them said that no matter what happened, they would vote no, that their constituents said vote no. So we do want to thank either party. So thank you to them. And very quickly, I just want to read off their names. It was Fred Crespo from 44th District, John DiMacco from the 15th District, Keith Farnham from the 43rd District, Jack Franks from the 63rd, Gian Gordon from the 92nd, Emily McCassie from the 85th, Deborah Mell from the 40th, Harry Osterman from the 14th, Brandon Phelps from the 118th, and Carol Sente from the 59th District. So thank you for listening to the people in Illinois. We thank them. Mike Conley had a family emergency, so our thoughts and prayers are with him and his family right now. Hopefully everything is okay. And we thank State Senator, Dan Murphy. That was Senator Lawson's fault. He was whispering the wrong name.
That's all right, everyone does that. Dan Duffy, Matt Murphy, you know, two Irishmen, what's the difference in politics? Hey, thank you very much. Again, let me just say that Mike Connolly, God bless him, he's home right now with his wife. They're in the hospital, but I'm sure everything's going to be okay, and I let him know that our prayers are with him. He asked me to come up and speak on his behalf because he knows that we both have the same passion about the issues of tax and spend. Now, Mike Connolly is the sponsor of the bill to repeal the tax increase. And I know that all of you are with him on that, as am I. I'm a co-sponsor on the same bill on the Senate side. But let me tell you, I grew up the youngest of 11 kids, and 7 of us started our own businesses, all doing different things. Of course, we wanted to live the American dream, be fiscally conservative, do what was right. But look what happened. What got me involved in politics to begin with was, as a small business owner, if you remember the former governor, Governor Blagojevich, he decided he wanted to pass a gross receipts tax. So what he wanted to do is he wanted to take 3% off the top from every small business owner in the state of Illinois. So 8 out of 10 jobs in Illinois come from small businesses. 78% of all the companies in Illinois have 9 or less employees. But what the governor decided he wanted to do was take 3% off the top, whether you made money or didn't make money, or whether you made a profit or whether you're borrowing money from the bank. He wanted to take 3% to go straight to the government for more excessive spending. So of course that frustrated me. That got me involved to speak up and speak out like all of you are doing today. And then one thing led to another, and people said, hey, maybe you should run for office. So that's why I'm here today, because of that. Springfield. And one of the first bills they asked me to vote on was what they said was the capital bill. Now the capital bill, I was told, was all about roads. It was to build better roads in Illinois. And I'm 100% for building better roads in Illinois. And I want that 100%. But along with that bill, they played the typical Springfield game here in politics. In that bill, they put a tax on everything we eat, drink, and enjoy. A tax on alcohol, a tax on wine, a tax on everything from license plate fees to dating services. So you know what? I had to say enough is enough. I can't vote for these road jobs and this road construction if you're going to turn around and tax everything we eat, drink, enjoy in that same bill. So I made a hard vote, but I voted no. Tell us that that bill was unconstitutional. Because of the single clause rule, you cannot group all those tax increases along with those road projects. So now that bill is going to go to the Illinois Supreme Court for review. So then the next bill that I voted on was a bill that the Governor Quinn, wanted us to vote on to borrow more money, to borrow billions of dollars to pay our bills. And he promised, if you let me borrow this money, then we'll be able to pay all of our bills, we'll pay everything that we owe, and we won't need any more money. Now, you think that happened? No. Of course, I voted no on that bill along with my colleagues, but it passed. And then what's the next thing that happened in the lame duck session? Here, in one of the process that I don't understand how it's legal, and it shouldn't be, the lame duck session voted for the largest tax increase in Illinois history. A 67% tax increase. And once again, the governor said, if you vote for this bill, and if this bill is passed, I'll pay all the bills bills, I'll take care of all our financial troubles, and I won't need any more money. Of course, all the Republicans voted no on that bill. That bill passed, and now, wouldn't you know it, the governor's coming to us again and saying, I need to borrow $8.75 billion more. So here we go again. Spend, borrow, and tax. It's time that we stop this vicious, reckless spending cycle. And we can change. We can change if people stay and get engaged. You are doing your part. You need to tell your neighbors. You need to tell people at work. You need to tell people to reach out to legislators, because unfortunately a lot of legislators are only interested in the next election, not the next generation. So you need to tell them, if you're interested in the next election, then you need to stop this taxing and borrowing, or we're going to remove you from office. Enough is enough. It's time for responsible government in Illinois. Thank you very much for coming. Keep speaking out.
Good afternoon. I'm Representative Summer from Tazewell County, Illinois. Just a very few words. My district includes the community of Eureka and Eureka College, where one of our greatest presidents attended, Ronald Reagan. During a recent campaign, one of my area newspapers thought they were jabbing me when they said, Keith Summer is undoubtedly the most conservative legislator in central Illinois. I took that as a compliment. Like my colleagues here, I have a record. I'm proud of this record. I voted no on the greatest tax increase in this state's history. One other thing I want to mention. It's about a piece of paper that comes to us from the late 1700s. The Constitution. How lucky we are that we are here and have the right to gather, have the right to speak our piece, have the right to support our right to bear arms. Let's